All right, Dolphins fans, welcome to the Fins Up Network. The Senior Bowl, that's the next thing on our calendar. Things to pay attention to as Dolphins fans. Obviously, the season is still going on, but hey, we're here. We're in off-season mode, so time to pay attention to the Senior Bowl. So with that, wanted to do a Senior Bowl preview video because practices are already starting next week. The game is on Saturday. Wanted to do a preview, some guys to keep an eye on if you're going to be paying attention to that. I'll pop this up on the screen so you can get some dates. But a quick overview of the Senior Bowl in case you're not quite as familiar with it. A couple of things. In order to participate, you got to get invited. You either got to be a senior or you got to be an early graduation junior. So there's 3 days worth of practice. That'll be next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They have an off day on Friday, and then you got the game on Saturday. And if you want to tune into that, it's at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on that Saturday on NFL Network. So now the people that are in attendance, it's NFL coaches, it's the scouts, it's the personnel execs. They're all going to get their chance to meet with, evaluate the prospects throughout the week. I found some interesting stats regarding last year's Senior Bowl. Before I jump into today's action, I thought these numbers were pretty interesting. Last year's Senior Bowl had 106 participants that ended up getting drafted. So that turned out to be 82% of the guys that participated in the Senior Bowl ended up getting drafted in that year's draft. And of the 106 that were drafted, 6 of those guys were picked in the first round, and 45 of them were selected within the first 3 rounds. So the Dolphins, let's look at their draft picks right now. We gotta set the table a little bit here. We got 5 picks right now in the 2023 NFL draft. Obviously, we lost our own 23 first rounder due to the Sean Payton, Tom Brady tampering penalty. Then we traded the first that we had from the San Francisco 49ers in that deal for Bradley Chubb at the trade deadline. So we've got our own second and third rounders, plus New England's third from the Devontae Parker trade. Our fourth and sixth rounders actually belong to the Chiefs as part of the Tyreek Hill deal. Our fifth was dealt to the San Francisco 49ers as part of the Jeff Wilson deal from the trade deadline as well. And then we have the Bears sixth from the Jakeem Grant trade. And then we have our own seventh. So that sets the table a little bit in regards to what we got. But like I said, I got a handful of prospects here that I think we should keep an eye on as we head into next week's Senior Bowl. Conveniently enough, I found one for what I would argue to be our top 5 most needed positions as well. That may or may not have been calculated. Spoiler alert, it was. First one, Devon Witherspoon at cornerback. Obviously, we saw our cornerback depth get tested this last season. So we need all the bodies we can get, especially if Byron Jones isn't going to be in the mix this next year. Xavier Howard isn't getting any younger. Enter Devon Witherspoon, cornerback out of Illinois. He goes 6 foot 180. He was a 3-year starter at Illinois. He's aggressive, physical. He performs his best in man coverage versus zone. He can do both pretty damn well, but man coverage is where he excels the most. And if you look at him at 180, despite that, he does not shy away as a tackler. He actually has a little bit of a knack for drawing those big hits, which is kind of surprising given that frame. But his concern, the biggest concern that I think scouts are going to have is that frame. When you're trying to match up on the outside against the big-bodied NFL wide receivers on the outside, there may be some teams that see him more of a nickel slot cornerback versus a boundary guy. But in my opinion, I think he has the capabilities of doing both with that versatility. Had a career best 3 interceptions in 2022, along with 14 passes defended. So when the ball was in his area, he wasn't having it. You'll see him go in the first round in some mocks, second round in some others, but definitely end of the day, a guy that we need to keep an eye on in our secondary here. Heading into the Senior Bowl, next position, running back, Kenny McIntosh, Georgia, who you probably saw on display in that game against TCU in the national championship, where they just took it to him. But Kenny McIntosh goes 6'1", 210. He's got good size for that. Obviously, ideal running back position in the NFL. Started this year in Georgia after playing behind guys like James Cook and Zamir White in the past. But he's got that nice height, weight, speed combo that they look for at the next level. Nice thing for the Dolphins as well, experience in both zone read and kind of that gap run calls as well. But he picks his hole, he's decisive, and he bursts through it. And that's what Mike McDaniel likes to see. That's what Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson did so well this year as well. But he forces missed tackles and sprays. He is a load. He's not easy to bring down. He's got solid contact balance, but he's also, this is a nice thing, solid as a pass catcher, but he's solid as a pass catcher in a variety of ways as well. Pass catching out of the backfield, lining up in the slot, lining up on the outside. He got 43 passes for 505 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. And the nice thing is he just looks like a natural doing it. It's not forced. He doesn't fight the ball when he catches it. He looks like a natural pass catcher, which Mike McDaniel is going to love to see from running back. The downside, though, we talked about it earlier. This was the first year as the starter. He's never had to really carry the load as a bell cow running back. He had 149 carries last year. Prior to last year, though, his high was 58. So he lacks a little bit of that experience that comes with the position, with playing time, the nuances of the position, the pass protection issues that could be there. Plus, if you look at one other downside, what do we see from bigger running backs sometimes? They tend to run a little bit taller as big guys. So he makes himself a little bit too big of a target at some points and times when he's running the ball. But we're looking at a mid-round pick, likely projects probably as part of a committee right away with that upside because of that untapped potential, because of that ability as a pass catcher, where maybe he could become a lead guy with the right coaching if things start clicking at. All right, let's talk about that offensive line because Lord knows we could use all the help possible at that position. Moving forward, Steve Avila, TCU offensive lineman, interior, can play center and guard, but he's a monster. TCU's team was just a bunch of big dudes, but he goes 6'4", 334 pounds. And this is where I talked a little bit about earlier is of all the people I'm going to talk about, he's kind of the outlier. He's really not the fit. Think about Solomon Kinley last year. We saw him in preseason games and everyone's like, we got to give this guy a shot at tackle. He's performing. But then the fit wasn't there and he ended up getting outright released. So in regards to natural fit, this is the weird one. But man, he's got some accolades. Back-to-back Big 12 All-American for TCU's offensive line, a team captain in 2022, good size. He can play in both the run and the pass game. In the run game, he gets off that snap and he engages with that defensive lineman. And guess what? He's not letting go. He does not let them shed. That's where he thrives in the run game. And then if you think about him in the pass protection, he is the best when he's going against power rushers because his strength, his natural size allows him to anchor and doesn't let those guys penetrate into the backfield. Listen to this. He didn't allow a sack in 477 pass blocking reps last season. Pretty damn impressive. So while he's a good against those power pass rushers, his weakness is against those speed guys because his frame doesn't really allow him to move laterally all that well. So he's also struggled in the past with some stunts, some twists, some things that make you move, make you think, and make you kind of react athletically. That's not quite there. That would need to get improved on at the next level. But like I said, the bad news is that fit. We could use help on the offensive line regardless. In regards to some starters, some depth, he, like I said, though, he likely projects better in like that gap scheme versus this zone scheme that we're likely looking at because of the limited range. But regardless, a guy to keep an eye on, probably a guy you're looking at in that 4th to 5th round range. Where are we going next? We're going to go to linebacker. One of the best names in the draft, too, by the way. I always love a good draft prospect name. Henry To'oTo'o goes 6'2", 228. Yes, you heard that right. 228 pounds as a linebacker. Played the last 2 years at linebacker in Alabama. Spent his first 2 seasons in Tennessee. So he's got a lot of SEC football experience. 111 tackles in 2021, 94 last year, combined 6.5 sacks over those years, and a combined 15.5 tackles for a loss over those seasons. The dude is explosive. He shows good football IQ with how quickly he can diagnose a play, get through traffic, avoid traffic, and just get to the ball carrier. And that athleticism just jumps off the tape. Watch his highlights. Sometimes you're going to see a guy just flying around. When he drops back into coverage, he's getting in the way of those passing lanes. He is just a natural freak the way he moves. He's got that sideline to sideline speed you always want to hear about and talk about when you're talking about linebackers, tracking down ball carriers and where the ball may go. But you know where he lacks? It's that size department. At that 225, 230-ish pound range, he just gets swallowed up by offensive linemen sometimes. He struggles to get off blocks. He doesn't shed the blocks all that well. And that's not saying that he doesn't have good strength. I think he's got some decent strength given that size. He's just not going to step in and be like any Landon Roberts, who's like a run thumper. That's not his game. He needs to be used more in space. He can show off that range, show off the versatility, show off the instincts that he has to just be an athlete rather than just being jumbled up with all the linemen. So he likely projects kind of in that second round range as well. But he's that new age, long, skinny, athletic type of linebacker that you just want to get on the field, get him in space, and just let him wreak havoc. Like I said, not a thumper by any means, kind of that new age hybrid type of linebacker, we'll call him. Last one we got, and I'm going to the tight end position. Oregon State, Luke Musgrave. So he goes 6'6", 250. Talk about some size right there. The dude is big. He's athletic. He can line up in line as a tight end. He can line up in the slot as a tight end, and he can be effective from both spots. He's got good tape being effective from both of those positions. Reliable hands, tracks the ball well, especially for a big guy. He tracks the ball very well. And he's a pretty damn good route runner as well. But I'll tell you what he does. He gets up the seam vertically, and that's his game. That's his best route. The dude is a monster in that situation. But here's the thing. What do we pay attention to when we think about tight ends and Mike McDaniel? Can he block? Well, fans, yes, he can block. And he does a pretty damn good job of it as well. When it comes to running the ball, he's not taking plays off. He's an effort guy. He's an effort blocker. He's not going to completely pound guys out of the way, completely clear them out. But he's going to get in the right positions, and he's going to seal his guy off, and he's going to get the job done. Well, another nice thing that he can do kind of in the passing game, he'll throw a chip block, and then he'll be able to transition right into his route very well. So that helps, obviously, in our pass game as well. You saw it earlier this year. We had to chip a lot of guys coming around the edges and then get him into routes. Musgrave excels in that. And he's actually a player, if you look at his stats, the production doesn't match what it probably should have been, what the potential could have been there. And a lot of that's chalked up to being in an inconsistent offense. He actually only played in 2 games last year. He suffered an injury in one of those games. But up to that point, had 11 catches, 169 yards, and a touchdown. So he was off to a nice start. But the year before, in 2021, he posted just 22 catches, 304 yards, and a single touchdown, despite playing in 10 games. So the production wasn't there. The potential is there, but he projects kind of as that second, third round range. And guess what? We all know it. We might be in the tight end market with Mike Gesicki likely not coming back. Who knows? Might be in the tight end market with one of our first picks. And NFL scouts are going to end up loving this guy. So that is my Senior Bowl preview, Miami Dolphins fans. But I'm excited to hear from you. If you've got any prospects that you're keeping an eye on, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I'll be back following the Super Bowl. Or the Senior Bowl, I should say. I'll probably be back prior to that with more videos as well. But definitely doing a recap on all of the Senior Bowl action along the way as well. But that is my time for today, Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.